Sabrina's 70s comic, issue 25. Sabrina tells Hilda that if Harvey comes to her house, she doesn't want her to let him in. Hilda congratulates her on coming to her senses about him and surprisingly isn't corrected. Sabrina says she wouldn't waste her magic on Harvey because he's not worth it. I'm sure this train of thought didn't apply to other people she hated. So why? She finally explains that she caught Harvey with another girl and what was supposed to be their date. And that doesn't surprise me at all at this point. That's how Harvey's so off in this comic. Sabrina says she doesn't want to see Harvey anymore, expecting him to show up and beg for forgiveness. And Hilda's happy to tell Harvey, get lost. She doesn't want to speak to you anymore. This panel immediately made me guess the twist that it'll turn out he wasn't actually cheating on her. If she did stop seeing Harvey, then the comic would have to change the status quo and drop its main comedy relief character. It'd have to do something interesting by giving us new boyfriends for Sabrina. So that never happened. Even though they could have a new comedy relief boyfriend. Even for just a couple of issues. Hilda summons a magic fist and crocodiles, and Harvey somehow assumes he's hallucinating, purely because he mixed pickles and ice cream in an orange drink. No one would do that. He goes in through the back door and she summons a bull to scare him out. This gets Sabrina to feel sorry for him and give him another chance. Are you serious? The story ends without us getting to hear his explanation? Really? I thought the twist was that it was a cousin of his again. That's not how you write an ending. Hilda says that she really should thank Sabrina because she made her day. And I too wish that she'd do this more often. I prefer seeing Hilda take an active role instead of just suffering from what Harvey does when she's a witch. She did something wrong, but it was a lot more amusing than her just complaining and then getting slapstick. In the next story, Hilda asks the doctor what's wrong with her, and he says she's forgetful sometimes. He gives her a prescription for pills, and she's just offended at being called old, so while Sabrina goes off to get her prescription filled, Hilda says right behind a mortal that she's a witch, and turns herself into a fly to spy on the doctor. Eventually, after he says nothing interesting, he starts trying to swat at her. Hilda forgets her chant, so she can't turn back to normal right away. I guess it makes sense. What kind of doctor would happily try to swat a fly out of Sabrina's hair and tell her to hold still? He should be sued for not caring about her well-being and trying to swat her. Hilda tells Sabrina what's going on, and so I again wonder why the doctor doesn't hear this. I guess she sent a telepathic message to Sabrina specifically. Sabrina lies that it's just her pet fly, and she walks away with the prescription. She surprisingly gives the pills a chance, and the story ends with the doctor recommending a psychiatrist for Sabrina because she said she had a pet fly. I'm glad he was smart enough to be suspicious of her. Yeah, that would be an impossible pet to have. In the next story, we see Sabrina remembering her childhood, where she still knew she was a witch. It's scary to think about her being even more irresponsible with magic. We see her use magic to make a little plane fly, as I'm struggling to keep caring about reviewing this story because it's got narration all over it and it's nothing but time skips. We see Sabrina use magic to make a doll fly, and it would have been interesting to see her do a spell duel with her witch friends if we saw what their spells were. Why isn't she? I guess she's not still friends with them now because she's nice and likes mortals. Sabrina accidentally gave Harvey a witch kit to assemble, with little cars, people in a town. Fortunately, it's explained that the witch kit's magic was already zapped in a factory. So Harvey wonders how his car is moving without batteries, and a guy in the car yells at him, and kicks him in the nose. So he was terrified and under observation for weeks. It seems like this comic uses dark humor a lot. It's just hard for me to notice because it's not humorous. Why didn't Sabrina just use magic to fix Harvey right away? Stella found out what happened, and somehow this caused her to withdraw the kit from circulation. Knowing what I know about her, wouldn't she have been happy that Immortal was terrified? Also, how did Sabrina know what happened if Harvey never mentioned it? I guess she just assumed because she gave him a witch kit. Couldn't this story have happened even if she wasn't a kid, because she's that dumb? In the next story, Hilda talks to a plant, and there's a whole bunch of them in front of her. Sure is nice for a proud evil witch to happily take care of plants properly. So we see the cliche that someone's made fun of for talking to plants, and explains that it makes them grow better. They go overboard on making fun of her. Then it turns out that the plant is a magical one who can talk back. Why didn't he talk back earlier? I should have expected this. I'm really glad the writer did this because I was so bored before. After the plant wants some gossip, Harvey reveals that he's got plants at home and is proud of his green thumb, but never saw any plant that healthy. He considerately asked Sabrina if Hilda would be mad if he took a small slip of the plant and grew it at his house. And he does so and thanks her, which never would have happened if Hilda had told Sabrina that it was a magical talking plant earlier, like the minute she got it. After Harvey makes sure no one's watching him, he talks to the plant as awkwardly as anyone would, and then screams because the plant tells him to speak up. I can't help but feel sad for the plant and his missed opportunity to have a friend. If only because I remember the talking plant in a Harvest Moon game that wanted to bond with the protagonist and can make hybrid crops. Although I learned to hate that plant, it can only make one at a time, and takes forever to do so. So I can see the missed potential here because he's only interacting with the mortal. In the first story, Sabrina catches Harvey with another girl off screen and just mentions it after the fact to have faster pacing. So we get to see an entire story of Hilda scaring Harvey with her magic. But he's determined enough to somehow believe he was just hallucinating and never give up. So Sabrina feels sorry for him and gives him a chance to explain himself. And sadly, we never get to hear his explanation, which was baffling. I guess it didn't work out with the other girl. The second story is about Hilda taking offense to a doctor calling her old after he gave her pills to treat forgetfulness. Why didn't she have a spell to treat forgetfulness? And she gets stuck as a fly in his office because finally one of the witches realistically forgot one of the spells they were saying. And realistically, the doctor tries to swat at her. So she needs Sabrina's help, and I guess speaking to her telepathically. I guess she can't turn herself back to normal with the point, because flies don't have fingers to point with. The third story is about Sabrina as a kid giving Harvey a witch kit, forgetting that it was magical right out of the box. And this traumatized him because one of the little pedestrians talked to him, being inexplicably mad at him. And it makes sense that Sabrina couldn't erase his memory of it because she wasn't there to witness it, and he never described it to her. The final story is about the clever twist that Hilda is chatting with a plant that can talk. And Harvey ends up terrified by its sprout because Sabrina never got warned that the specific plant could talk. Even if she was warned, she'd have probably forgotten which one could talk because she doesn't know about plants, so they'd all look the same to her. It was a nice development on Harvey's character that he cared about growing plants, but it was undone right away. So it's a good thing Hilda's like that too, which gives her more of a soft side. But plants aren't mortals, which helps explain why she's so nice to them. I'm so glad the plant could talk, because I was bored of the annoying cliche that she was being made fun of for talking to plants.